So what we're going to do now is launch EDPIV and load in those same two images. Right, there's one, and there is two. All right, so those are the same two images we had before. Now, what we'd like to do is what I showed you last time, which is called low image density PIV. So I'm going to put a measurement point everywhere there's a particle. And the way that you do that is we have to find where the particles are, and we do that in processing. So in processing, if you go to the edit menu, so we already looked at simulation, right? Simulation is down on the bottom. There is a number of different things, right? Image processing, image operation, pixel operation. You could do filtering. We'll look at that in a little bit. But what we want to do is particle processing. So particle identification. Below particle identification, there's position search 1 and position search 2. We won't talk about position search 1 today, but position search 2, what that does is it looks around in your image and finds where your particles are, and then puts that location into one of the memories, like M1 or M2. So position search, I'll click that, position search 2, and you get some control over that. So this slider bar here lets you choose what your threshold is for telling it what's a particle. Now, the conditions that under which I made these images that we're looking at now are a little bit different than the ones we just ran. But I think I had something like 200 to 250. And I think they were all the same size. All the particles were 5 pixels in diameter. So if what you would want to do here is look around your image, see how big your particles are, see how bright they are. Actually, the only thing that's important is how bright they are. This is a threshold. So I slide this slider over to, say my particles vary between 100 and 250. All right, I'm going to slide this, let's say, to 90. So anything that's above 90 is now thought of as a particle. So I could do that. Let's say 90. What this should be showing you a histogram of the gray levels. So the way that I simulated this image, I didn't put any background noise in. So the background is 0. And so you see a delta function at 0. And consequently, you don't see anything else. So the height of that delta function would be the number of pixels that are at 0, which is 99% of the image. So the particle images, you would normally see a little hump over here. But because this one is so high, you can't see that little hump. All right, so, but let's say that's okay. And you can also choose the plus or the minus if you're using, if you have dark particle images on a light background, you would change that. So I click OK. And you don't see that anything has happened. If I looked at it, let's see. Let's zoom in. So let's zoom in and see what happened. So what you see here is I tried to zoom in enough so that we could see what was going on. Each particle has been reduced to a single white pixel. Right? So we talked about that last time. What it does, what EDPIV does now is it takes the location, the integer pixel location of each of those white dots, and it says, this is the location of my particles. And it puts that in a memory. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to close that. And it says, do you want to keep the changes? And here you got to answer yes. If you say no, it'll lose the information of where those particles are. So I say yes. You don't see anything has changed here, but let's go to evaluation. And now what you see is, all right, the grid that I used for the last interrogation, or the default grid, which is 16 by 16, is on there. But you see a bunch of measurement points that aren't aligned with the grid. So let's turn the grid off. And what we could do is, if I'm happy with the measurement parameters here, I could just click Go. And those measurement parameters will work. So I click Start, and it took much less time to analyze, because instead of computing all of those vectors, I'm computing just a few. All right, hold on. Let's put on the background image, recording 1 and 2, and then let's go here. This is a good looking spot. That'll do. The trackpad doesn't work real well with dragging the window I want to look at. But so what you see is, as we're close to the top of the image here, so the displacement should be about 5 pixels to the left. And if you think about the particle images we simulated, they ranged from maybe 2 to 5 pixels. So that's a big guy. It gives you an idea that diameter is about 5. Or here's another scale. Here's the scale vector. That's about 5. So it gives you an idea that you're probably in the right ballpark. So I click Close. And last thing we could do here is to go to Info, and you could see that things look a little bit different than when you were working with a grid of measurement points. So the results of a grid of measurement points, you'd have the total number of points here, but then rows and columns would have something in it. All right, nothing there now, but 186 vectors. And if you go down to the bottom of that window, you can see each particle is given a number, and I can scroll through those numbers and see where the particles are and what the measurement is. At that point, I could save that vector field.